Hidden deep within the majestic Himalayas, where the harshness of nature has almost completely severed all traces of human presence, lies one of the world's most mysterious enigmas, Roopkund Lake. Situated at an altitude of over 5,000 meters above sea level, this small body of water stands out not only for its icy, desolate landscape, but also for the eerie presence of hundreds of human skeletons. Every year, when the spring sun melts the thick layers of ice, the bones re-emerge like whispers from the past, sparking countless theories, legends, and scientific studies. Who were the people who died here? Where did they come from? And for what reason did they perish in this cold and desolate place? These questions make Roopkund not just a tourist destination, but a labyrinth of history, anthropology, and biology, awaiting answers from the modern world. The mysterious Lake of Skeletons. Nestled in the Indian Himalayas is a remote lake hidden within a snow-filled valley containing hundreds of human skeletons. This is Roopkund Lake, located at an altitude of 5,029 meters above sea level, on the slopes of Mount Trizal, one of the highest peaks in India, situated in the state of Uttarakhand. 76 years ago, an Indian forest ranger named H.K. Madhwal accidentally discovered Roopkund Lake in Uttarakhand. The lake, frozen year-round and nearly 2 meters deep, sits at an altitude of nearly 5,000 meters in the Himalayas and dates back to the 9th century A.D. With its mysterious characteristics, Roopkund has become an incredibly attractive destination for local tourists, especially those who are adventurous and eager to explore the unknown. At the time of its discovery in 1942, the ice and snow had melted, revealing more than 200 human skeletons. Later, even more remains were found, bringing the total to over 800 skeletons of various sizes. The news quickly spread and caused a sensation, as Roopkund is located in a remote, high-altitude area with no human habitation, making the discovery of hundreds of skeletons in such a desolate place truly extraordinary. To date, it is estimated that around 600 to 800 skeletal remains have been discovered at the site. In tourism promotion campaigns, local authorities have described it as the mysterious lake. Among the more than 800 skeletons, over 30 still had intact skulls, hair, fingernails, and toenails. These remains were sent to the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, in Hyderabad for DNA testing. The results revealed that, even after more than 1,000 years, small bone protrusions were still visible on the foreheads of these individuals. This feature is found only among residents of Maharashtra, a region in central, southern India. CCMB further analyzed the DNA and discovered that 3 of the samples contained a very rare and unusual mutated DNA helix sequence that has never been found elsewhere in the world, except among a group of migrants from Maharashtra. Among the 300 skeletons studied at the bottom of the lake, scientists have uncovered several other intriguing details. All 300 skeletons were categorized into 2 main groups. One group had relatively large bone structures, suggesting that these individuals were tall and robust, possibly of Iranian origin. The other group had smaller frames and fewer skeletons. The final conclusion drawn was that the majority of the more than 300 people buried beneath Roopkund Lake were Indians who had embarked on a collective pilgrimage to the lake during the 9th century AD. For over half a century, anthropologists and researchers have puzzled over numerous questions. To whom did these remains belong? When did they die? And where did they come from? One theory involves an Indian king, his wife, and their attendants, all of whom reportedly perished in a snowstorm around 870 years ago. Other opinions suggest that the skeletons may belong to Indian soldiers who attempted to invade Tibet in 1841 and were repelled. Over 70 of them tried to return home across the Himalayas and died along the way. Another hypothesis proposes that Roopkund might have served as a burial ground for victims of a disease outbreak. According to previous studies on the discovered remains, it was found that most of the deceased were tall, meaning they were above average in stature. Most of them were middle-aged adults between 35 and 40 years old. There were no skeletons of infants or children. Some others were elderly women. All were in fairly good health. The cause of mass death was not due to disease. They died at the same time, possibly because a massive hailstorm with extremely high velocities, leaving them no time to find shelter. The remaining casualties may have died due to the harsh climate, hunger, and cold. Notably, scientists also found evidence that it is highly likely these people came here to forage for magic mushrooms, a type of mushroom with astonishing medicinal properties that appears abundantly in spring. The journey started out well, but later they became trapped with nowhere to escape. So when the hailstorm, as hard as iron, traveling at speeds of over 160 km/h, suddenly occurred, the entire group perished. For comparison, high-velocity hailstorms causing death are not uncommon and have occurred in modern society. As evidence, according to the Guinness World Records, GWR, in 1986, a terrifying hailstorm occurred in Bangladesh, with hailstones weighing up to 1 kg falling and killing 92 people. Therefore, scientists believe this is completely logical and that it may have happened at Roopkund around the year 850. A recent 5-year study involving 28 co-authors from 16 institutions based in India, the United States, and Germany suggests that the previous assumptions may all be incorrect. The research team conducted genetic analysis and carbon dating on 38 bodies, including 15 women, and found that some of them date back approximately 1,200 years. They discovered that the deceased were genetically diverse and that their deaths occurred around 1,000 years apart. It is still unclear what happened at Roopkund Lake, but according to Edouin Harney, the lead author of the study and a doctoral researcher from Harvard University, it can be stated with certainty that the deaths of these individuals cannot be explained by a single event. She also noted that, so far, no explanation related to a catastrophic event has accounted for their deaths. More intriguingly, genetic research revealed that the deceased belonged to multiple groups. One group had genetic similarities to people living in South Asia, while the other was closely related to people living in present-day Europe, particularly those on the island of Crete in Greece. Harney stated that some individuals had ancestry more commonly found in groups from the northern part of the subcontinent, while others had ancestry from southern groups. This raises the question of whether these diverse groups of people arrived at Roopkund Lake in smaller waves over several hundred years, and whether some of them may have died in the same event. Notably, Roopkund Lake is not located on a trade route, and there is no evidence of the presence of any ancient bacterial pathogens that could explain a mass death. Pilgrimage could explain why people pass through this area. Therefore, the research team believes that some of the skeletons in the lake are the result of a mass death event that occurred during a pilgrimage. The question arises, how could people from the eastern Mediterranean have reached a remote lake located in the highest mountain region of India? Could it be that those who came from Europe, had traveled to Roopkund Lake to participate in a Hindu pilgrimage? Harney stated that the research team is still searching for answers to this mystery. Today, when visiting Roopkund Lake, tourists can still witness the original state of the site, as after the research, the skeletons were returned to their original positions to continue serving as historical witnesses. Every year, as scheduled, when the icy layer covering the lake melts, hundreds and even thousands of tourists from all over come to visit and engage in spiritual practices, praying for the unfortunate souls who perished in this harsh land. However, to reach Roopkund Lake, visitors must climb a steep trail starting from the village of Lahajong, 2,350 meters, followed by a 5-day trek through dense forests, and then ascend high mountains to reach the lake. Popular tours run from May to October each year. To this day, Roopkund Lake remains like a misty gateway to a distant and mysterious past. Hundreds of skeletal remains from different periods and regions have challenged all assumptions about human movement and interaction throughout history. Although numerous studies in genetics, archaeology, and climate analysis have been conducted, the biggest question still remains unanswered. What exactly happened at this place? Perhaps it is precisely this ambiguity that makes Roopkund Lake a symbol of the quest for truth and the fragile nature of human existence amidst majestic nature. The skeletons here are not only physical evidence, but also echoes of history, reminding us that the unknown still lingers around us, waiting to be discovered.